And good afternoon to those who are joining us physically here. And good afternoon to those who are joining us live on YouTube. We are grateful for the opportunity to be able to exchange with you. And today, as Uzudi had said, is our 5th lecture. And today, the topic I want to labor on is we all have specific preferences in the way we construe our experiences. It sounds like it has a rhyme, but actually you'd come to understand that there are many ways in which we can construe our experiences. If I were to start with what Blaise Pascal once said, he says, "What a chimera then is man. How strange and monstrous. A chaos, a subject of contradictions, a prodigy, judge of all things, yet a stupid earthworm. Depository of truth, yet a cesspool of uncertainty and error. The glory and the refuse of the universe. Who will unravel this tangle?" When you think about it carefully, and I was reminded of this just this past Thursday, when I was invited to be a panel member and we were interviewing for a position. And when people were coming through, I was actually reminded how hard it is to sit in an interview panel and be an interviewee. You would hope that people have mastered this thing, by the way, that when you come for an interview, one of the important questions they're going to ask you, who are you? Tell us about yourself. I'm telling you, people danced around that question, and you could tell that in their faces, they have this worry that actually they should be knowing more than they are telling us. When you think about it carefully, two of the most important things that you're going to have to come across is when you have to tell people who you are, especially on interviews, and the second thing you're going to have to do is to stand in public and address people. So public speaking and an interview process are the two things that make us nervous the most. And the reason they make us nervous the most, I guess, it's because at some point they tend to question our identity more. And if you think about it as well, then it is my firm belief that life is a journey of actualization which leads to self-mastery, and I've seen and read widely about a lot more masters in my life, believe me when I say. These are some of the people that I've had to go and read in terms of biographies on to try and understand what makes us who we are. From all known masters in philosophy, I've read widely about people like Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, Epicurus, Marcus Aurelius, Aquinas, Francis Bacon, Descartes, Spinoza, Locke, Hume, Voltaire, Kant, Hegel, Schopenhauer, Emerson, Spencer, Nietzsche, William James, Bergson, Santayana, Marx, Pascal, Newton, Einstein, Pythagoras, Confucius, Sartre, Comte, all of these people, when you look at them, their identity had to do with philosophy and what they were representing. But also I've read widely in terms of the known masters in religious doctrine, people like Jesus Christ, Buddha, Muhammad, Nyembe, Likhanyane, Masango, you name them. I've also learned from masters in conscious and calibration of mindset, people like Dr. Howard Thurman, Martin Luther King Jr., Steve Biko, Julius Nyerere. You can go on about these, including in psychology, Freud, Maslow, Jung, Skinner, Piaget, Pavlov, Erickson, Watson, Wounded, from all known masters in statesmanship, Kaunda, Mandela, Washington, Lincoln, Obama, masters in strategy, Oliver Reginald Tambo, Lao Tzu, Zhong Liang, Max Weber, Leon Trotsky, Chanakya, Serrero, all of them. And from masters in business and entrepreneurship, Warren Buffett, Henry Ford, Richard Branson, Steve Jobs, Thomas Edison, Mark Zuckerberg, Ray Ellison, JP Morgan, Petrus Motsepe. From all these, there are few things you're going to come to understand. One, it's that we are all imbued with one thing in common, which is time, which we can invest however we see fit and almost be guaranteed we'll have an uncommon end every time. All of the masters I've come to investigate have used their time as pundit and distinct compared to their peers at any given time, which in the end has come to set them apart from the rest. It's as if they committed their daily lives to nothing but mastery through actualization. It's like they knew they came here on earth to do one thing, and one thing only, more than mere existence. It's as if their grind was focused and deliberate towards that one thing and one thing only. Time is what distinguishes us from others. Your life will come to be measured by the things you invest your time in. Not only the things that consume your thoughts and feelings, but those things that determine your behavior as well. The question is, what would you come to master? You can choose to master things. You can choose to master life of things. You can even choose to master between things and master life itself. It's your call. And you would answer to such by what occupies your time. It is my hope that at the core of our being, we can understand that the important element here is self-actualization or self-mastery. Therefore, at the center of all that we do, we must decide to be deliberate about mastery. I believe in mastery. Because as you sit here, and those who are joining us at home, or wherever you are, the question is, there's something in you that yearns and longs for some type of mastery. The names and the list I just went through, for those of you, it reminds you that the names that I've just given you are not just people who lived, it's people who represented certain ideas. It's people that even though some have died, what they represented and what they stood for continues to impact us in their graves. Mastery, as you know, is about becoming the best in an area of your chosen ability or the area of gifting. It's about having an aptitude mentally, emotionally, and physically towards a particular thing in a way that produces best outcomes consistently and with a proven track record. It is deliberate, it is measured, and it is mastered. Say, for instance, you want to become a master P, a master parent, a master pilot, a master pianist, a master player, a master performer, a master politician, a master professor, a master physician, a master painter, a master plumber, a master physicist, a master philosopher, a master psychologist, a master prophet, a master philanthropist, a master publicist, a master producer, a master presenter, a master president, a master promoter, a master poet, a master programmer, a master processor, a master planner. It's all up to you. Some would want to become a master S, a master speaker, a master sailor, a master spinner, a master striker, a master surfer, a master screener, a master socialist, a master sniper, a master scientist, a master strategist, a master singer, a master skater, a master sculptor, a master songstress, a master snatcher, a master servant, a master starter, a master selector, a master shaper, a master shaker, a master sorter, a master switcher, a master sprinter, a master shooter, a master shifter, a master shaper. I believe mastery is possible for all men and women as long as they are born with some degree of mental, emotional, and physical quotient. We all have the edge to outperform, outclass, and outmaneuver our current abilities. And that is the highest power manifestation of mastery. The mastery to get things done. The mastery to think, reason, and process. The mastery to relate and interact. The mastery to influence and get reaction. It is not something only some of us can do. It's something all of us must become, and become masters of our own selves. Question is, where do you begin with this mastery? Where do you begin with this understanding that you are using your time to build something that will last beyond your life? I believe there are 4 areas or preferences that we can use to construe our experiences. The first preference, we can construe our experiences through personalization. So the first thing is, you must personalize or be personalized. This you can express by interest, needs, values, and motivations. When I was checking about how to construe your life through interests, I found some of the top 10 hobbies that people put as their best hobbies and personal interests that often appear in the resumes of people. I'm not too sure if these are written because people do them or people write them because they know those in HR are forever looking for them. You can actually construe your life as a volunteer, as a writer, as a blogger, in podcasting, in marketing, in learning languages, in photography, in travel, in art, in yoga. These you're not just doing for the sake of vibe or seen as cool. You are doing because as you do them, you get imbued with whatever that you are doing as part of yourself. Because then, when we are volunteering, we would say, that one who volunteers, that one who podcasts, that one who is in marketing, that one who understands more languages or is a linguist. But also you can construe your experiences through needs. This is a very interesting one. When Maslow's studied the needs of people, in general, we've got two needs as people. Our need is to avoid pain and the need to gain pleasure. But psychologically, when you go deeper with our needs, they are basic needs. So you can be known as that one who addresses psychosocial needs in their lives, which means you have a provider or a breadwinner in your household, and you provide food, water, warmth, and rest for those that you look after. Or you could be known as that one who provides safety needs, where in your own family you provide security and safety. You can be known as that one who addresses belongingness and love needs for those they come across, the intimate relationships and friendships that you design. You can be known as that one who addresses or grooms esteem needs in terms of prestige and feeling of accomplishment. Or you can be known as that one who is self-actualized and who is fulfilled in terms of their lives, where you are pursuing to achieve full potential, including creative activities. But also you can be known as someone who construed their lives through values, what you stand for, the virtues, because life is going to present vices and life is going to challenge you. But as you go through life, it is those who understand that they can design their lives around values and find themselves upright or dependable, find themselves committed or passionate, find themselves honest or loyal, find themselves efficient or reliable, optimistic or positive. These are ways in which when you choose and you wake up every day, you exchange your life for the sake of virtues or values. But also you can be construed through motivations. I know this is the life I lived for the longest time, a life of goals and setting goals, a life of attitude, so that when you wake up in the morning, you understand that your attitude, they say sometimes, will determine your altitude. Those who succeed and take success very seriously, they understand then that their lives will be determined by the motivations that they go after. Those who have ideas but take ideas seriously as an arbiter or something that they can use to challenge the world and change society and make a difference in the world. Those who support others understand the power of motivation. By saying to somebody, this too shall pass, could make a difference between people being inspired or being demotivated. It's people who understand that by mere performance, being given a mere task or job, if you then drive it and give it all you have, you are already then using motivation as part of how you're going to construe your experiences. The second preference, you can construe your experiences through individuation. So not that you can construe through personalization, you can then also construe through individuation. Individuation is expressed by sensations, intuitions, feelings, and thoughts. It is my other firm belief that self uses personality to express all human interactions. This is very important because your personality before your character is critical, because your character is what's within. Personality is who we interact with in terms of what's without or outside you. This is confirmed by individuation, a process of psychological integration. In general, observed Carl Jung, individuation is the process by which individual beings are formed and differentiated from other human beings. In particular, it is the development of the psychological individual as a being distinct from the general collective psychology. The symbols of the individuation process mark its stages like milestones, prominent among them being the shadow, the wise old man, and lastly the anima in men and the animus in women. Thus, there is often a movement from dealing with the persona at the start to the ego at the second stage, to the shadow at the third stage, to the anima or animus, to the self as the final stage. Some would interpose the wise old woman and wise old man as spiritual archetypes coming before the final stage of self. Carl Jung speculated that humans experience the world using 4 principal psychological functions. We experience the world through sensations, or being sensational. We experience the world through intuition, through feeling and thinking. And that one of these 4 functions is dominant for a person most of the time. Catherine Cook Briggs and her daughter Isabel Briggs Myers developed this conceptual theory further and came up with Myers-Briggs type indicator, with the underlying assumption that we all have specific preferences in the way we construe our experiences. And these preferences underlie our interests, needs, values, and motivations. I understand myself to be an influential thinker, and some of my outlets include being a strategist, wealth creator, businessman, author, and life coach. This is how I construe my experiences. I want to tell you this. It's important that with sensation and thinking and feeling and those things, that you are mindful of who you are. Because the minute you say these things, those who are listening to you, they'll think maybe you're bragging or you think you're all that. I tell you, Mtana Sekaya, do that you need to do so that you remain in the awareness of yourself. Because these days, people will tend to look down upon us or try and challenge us or try to strip us of who we are because they are having agendas or whatever vendettas that may have against us. So I want you to know that when you come out and then say, I'm a strategist, I'm a wealth creator, you are claiming first and foremost, yes, but you are claiming because within you, you are feeling these things. It's part of the conviction that you are feeling. And as you construe your experiences, you've often found that things that you tell yourself and you start to think and feel and act, others begin to pick up and others begin to start expecting from you. I have a gift of the gap. This is what Bottaswat once told me. When I looked in Cambridge Dictionary, it's defined as the ability to speak easily and confidently in a way that makes people want to listen to you and believe you. Yes, self must be defined in relation to your contribution to your family, the community, and the universe at large. There is nothing wrong with juxtaposing self against what you do, but it's not enough. In fact, what you do is only a segment of self, not self in itself, but an extension of self. I think, I curate, I influence. So this is who I am. And because this is who I am, it's what I do then, because we are called by what we do. I have strengths, which I know. I have weaknesses, which I know. A very particular way in which I deal with others, an unconventional style of parenting, and a not so usual self-education. Trust me, all these are known to me, and I fully embrace as part of pride and confidence in my unique personality, which I'm not prepared to change or compromise. Wena ungubani. Who are you? When others are asking you to personalize, and others feel like we're all personal brands these days, do you definitely know who you are? When it comes to individuation, your intuitions, your sensations, your thinking, your feeling, do you actually know who you are? Can you identify yourself from your thoughts? Can you identify yourself from your emotions and feelings? Because these things are not mere accidents. They are part of your everyday life, and from them, we can start extrapolating the core and essence of who you are. Your personality is expressed according to 4 of the 8 pairs. This is what Myers-Briggs personality type indicator teaches us. At first, the question is, how are you motivated? Where do you radiate your energy from? Those who radiate their energy from external influences are extroverted, or they're extroverts. And those who radiate from within are introverted or introverts. The next part is, how do you express your ideas? Do you use your 5 senses, which is sensing, or do you use the 6th sense, which is intuition? The third one is, how do you express the world around you and communicate it? Do you communicate it through thought, which is thinking, or do you communicate it through feeling, which is emotional expressions? The 4th one is, when you are asked to make a deduction of the world, or to deduce the world, and explain the world, or defend the world, or express your own ideas of the world, do you use judging or do you use perceiving, which is J and P? So in all, we are either extroverted or introverted, sensing or intuitive, thinking or feeling, judging or perceiving. The preferences for extraversion and introversion are often called attitudes. Briggs and Myers recognize that each of the cognitive functions can operate in the external world of behavior, action, people, and things, which are extroverted attitude, or the internal world of ideas and reflection, which is introverted attitude. People who prefer extraversion draw energy from action. They tend to act, then reflect, then act further. If they are inactive, their motivation tends to decline. To rebuild their energy, extroverts need breaks from time spent in reflection. Conversely, those who prefer introversion, they expend energy from action. They prefer to reflect, then act, then reflect again. To rebuild their energy, introverts need quiet time alone, away from activity. Sensing and intuition are the information gathering or perceiving functions. They describe how new information is understood and interpreted. People who prefer sensing are more likely to trust information that is present, tangible, and concrete. That is information that can be understood by 5 senses. They tend to distrust hunches, which seem to come out of nowhere. They prefer to look for details and facts. For them, the meaning is in the data. On the other hand, those who prefer intuition tend to trust information that is less dependent upon the senses, that can be associated with other information, either remembered or discovered by seeking a wider context or pattern. They may be more interested in future possibilities. For them, the meaning is in the underlying theory and principles which are manifested in the data. Thinking and feeling are the decision-making or judging functions. The thinking and feeling functions are both used to make rational decisions based on the data received from the information-gathering functions. Those who prefer thinking tend to decide things from a more detached standpoint, measuring the decision by what seems reasonable, logical, causal, consistent, and matching a given set of rules. Those who prefer feeling tend to come to decisions by associating or empathizing with the situation, looking at it from the inside, and weighing the situation to achieve on balance the greatest harmony, consensus, and fit, considering the needs of people involved. Thinkers usually have trouble interacting with people who are inconsistent or illogical and tend to give very direct feedback to others. They are concerned with the truth and view it as more important. Myers and Briggs added another dimension to Jung's typological model by identifying that people also have a preference for using either the judging function, which is thinking or feeling, or their perceiving function, which is sensing or intuition, when relating to the outside world. Myers and Briggs held that types with a preference for judging show the world their preferred judging function, which is thinking or feeling. So TJ types, for instance, tend to appear to the world as logical, and FJ types are empathetic. According to Myers, judging types like to have matters settled. Those types who prefer perception show the world their preferred perceiving function, which is sensing or intuition. So SP types tend to appear to the world as concrete, and NP types as abstract. According to Myers, perceptive types prefer to keep decisions open. For extroverts, the J or P indicates their dominant function, or for introverts, the J or P indicates their auxiliary function. Introverts tend to show their dominant function outwardly only in matters important to their inner world. For example, because the ENTJ type is extroverted, the J indicates that the dominant function is the preferred judging function. The ENTJ type introverts the auxiliary perceiving function, and the tertiary function is sensing, and the inferior function is introverted feeling. Because the INTJ type is introverted, however, the J instead indicates that the auxiliary function is the preferred judging function, which is extroverted thinking. The INTJ type introverts the dominant perceiving function, or introverted intuition. The tertiary function is feeling, and the inferior function is extroverted sensing. All this mumbo jumbo I was saying here is the science of personalities. And in our personality type indicators, people are different. When you meet someone who is introverted, often people say, I'm introverted because I'm shy, but actually that's not true. You are introverted because you are radiating your motivation from within. I have 2 daughters. My eldest daughter is an introvert. My youngest daughter is an extrovert. What does this mean? It means I must allow my youngest daughter to use the environment to be inspired. When she goes out and interacts with other children, to her it's part of motivation. My eldest daughter is the quite opposite. She wants to be isolated and spend time by herself. It doesn't necessarily mean that my quiet daughter is not public if she needs to be, or my public daughter is not private if she needs to be. It just means that's how their personalities work. When you speak to them, then you must understand that their motivation radiates from within or from without. My personality type is called INTJ, or what they call in the Myers-Briggs type indicator, the mastermind, meaning that I'm introverted, intuitive, thinking, and judging. Yes, I'm an introvert. I'm an ambitious, self-confident, deliberate, long-range thinker. I live in a world of ideas, analysis, and strategy. I'm intelligent, and that combined with my natural intuition makes me a great thinker. I value knowledge, competence, and I love new ideas and possibilities. I have high standards that I'm constantly striving to fulfill as I continually seek to improve the world around me. My interests, needs, values, and motivations can be understood in these traits that I'm going to mention now. 1, I have an ability to absorb extremely complex theoretical and complex material. Number 2, my drive to create order and structure from theoretical abstractions. Thirdly, my supreme strategic prowess and the fact that I can think for brands in funerals, manufacturing, chemicals, commercial law, broadcasting networks, human resources, and start my own high-impact platforms through my Black peer ecosystem as a black philosopher. Fourthly, I'm future-oriented. Fifthly, I'm easily able to see the big picture. Strong insights and intuitions which I trust implicitly. That I value my own opinions over others. My love for difficult theoretical challenges. My boredom when dealing with mundane routine. My value for knowledge and efficiency. My very high standards for performance, which I apply to myself most strongly. Being reserved and detached from others. That I'm calm, collected, and analytical. Being extremely logical and rational. As an INTJ, my interest in dealing with the world is to make decisions, express judgments, and put everything that I encounter into an understandable and rational system. Even my worst life experiences afford me the avenue to express judgments. I have been falsely perceived as being rigid and set in my ways. Nothing could be further from the truth, because as an INTJ, I'm committed to always finding the objective best strategy to implement my ideas. I'm actually quite open to hearing an alternative way of doing something. It is not my fault that my INTJ personality is of a perfectionist nature, and I enjoy improving ideas and systems I come in contact with. Of course, I'm naturally curious, and this tends to happen quite frequently. However, I always try to remain in the rational territory no matter how attractive the end goal is. And by the way, when I was growing up in high school, I struggled a lot with this phenomenon or this issue of my life. People felt I had a dualism personality, that though I could be quiet, I was also loud. And because then I was loud in class and I was someone of papayo, you often find that those who are inferior or those who shrink will tend to batter you or batter you or tend to attack you because of their own inferiorities. And I remember at some point, I decided that I'm not going to be quiet. I'm not going to be loud. To my surprise, I then had other kids then coming to me, asking me, are you okay? I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, but you're too quiet today. It ended up confusing me. Do you guys want me to be loud or do you want me to be quiet? And the truth of the matter is, they wanted me to be myself. What are you in your personality? Do you find yourself speaking against your very intuition? Or do you find yourself speaking in line with your sensing and what you are feeling? Do you find yourself struggling that what you say is what you are thinking and trying to be rational, but it's not congruent to what you are feeling. Because then, whatever that is, the question is, but who are you? The sad reality about people is that sometimes we're good at acting parts. Here's a phenomenon in business. The word is called professionalism. I struggle with that word a lot. Not because of the goodness that it tries to bring in organizations, but it's because how people are able to fake things all of a sudden in the name of professionalism. I meet you, you smile at me, you ask how my mother is doing because you heard my mother is sick, but you don't necessarily care or empathetic about really how my mother is. You just want to start a conversation with me. It's so lame, and I don't like it. Be raw if you are raw, or be feeling if you are feeling. Just be yourself. Because often you find that those who are themselves stand a better chance of relating better with others. What is the structure and topography of a personality? Of the 16 personality types, which one are you? Are you an ISTJ, the inspector, like Warren Buffett? Are you an INFJ, the counselor, like Mohandas Gandhi? Are you an INTJ, the mastermind, like Isaac Newton, which I am? Are you an ENJP, the giver, like Nelson Mandela? Are you an ISTP, the craftsman, like Michael Jordan? Are you an ESFJ, the provider, like Steve Harvey? Are you an INFP, the idealist, like Isabel Briggs Myers? Are you an ESFP, the performer, like Nicki Minaj? Are you an ENFP, the champion, like Ellen DeGeneres? Are you an ESTP, the doer, like Eddie Murphy? Are you an ESTJ, the supervisor, like Billy Graham? Are you an ENTJ, the commander, like Barack Obama? Are you an INTP, the thinker, like Albert Einstein? Are you an ISFJ, the natural, like Mother Teresa? Are you an ENTP, the visionary, like Thomas Edison? Or are you an ISFP, the composer, like Michael Jackson? As you can tell, the names are too American because the tool itself is from America. But it doesn't matter. The question is, when you take your Myers-Briggs type indicator, what does it say about your personality? Because if then your personalization and individuation are not sorted, you are running a risk. And the risk then is that we're going to need you to be determined at some point. We're going to need you to be motivated at some point. We're going to need you to show willpower at some point. And we're going to struggle with you then because we will not know how we're going to relate with you. We're not going to know whether you're a consistent person or not. We're not going to know if you really care about people or not. And by the way, the more you do this, can you imagine to retire at 65 as a man or at 60 as a woman, and all you've lived is a lie and tried to act something out? But actually, all you could be is yourself. So in your profession, whatever you're doing, whether you're self-employed, try then and make sure that you are working on this personalization and individuation as the basic elements. Because the two now that I'm going to discuss are sort of what we relate with better. But the first ones are sort of arbitrary to other people. So I'm then saying to you, remember one thing. If you are not personalized, you'll get lost when we are collective. We want you to be individualized so that when we interact with you, we know what are your unique features. I mean, we are all humans with 2 eyes, 2 ears, but we don't see the same way, we don't hear the same way, because we are different. When someone walks in, whether we think about them as they walk in or we feel things about them as we walk in, it depends with our personality. It has to do with who we are. So for me, as you personalize and individuate or be individualized, remember then that you're already construing your life. You're already showing your own preferences, so that when we relate with you in your preferred way. Let's look at the third preference. We can construe our experiences through determination. The first one we said, personalization. The second one, individuation. The third one is determination as expressed by talents, knowledge, skills, and abilities. You need to capitalize on your strengths and manage around your weaknesses. I know this is easy to grasp, but as you probably know from experience, it is hard to apply. After all, building a strong life will always be a challenging assignment involving a myriad of different variables. Your self-awareness, your maturity, your opportunities, the people with whom you surround yourself, the people from whom you can't seem to escape. To be clear at the outset, no one can provide you with a complete set of your esteem in terms of complete set of image of self as you build a new strengths-based life. Even if they do and try and influence that, the picture will be instantly inaccurate since each of us is never complete. Nor can anyone tell you how to learn. As you are doubtless aware, it will always be your responsibility to take the action, ponder the repercussions, and slide the learning into place. No one can do that for you. So what I'm saying is, let's stop faking. Let's start being more real. Start being yourself. Because at some point as you mature, you're going to realize being yourself is the best bet. Because when you are yourself, then you know you can sleep better at night. You're not going to struggle from insomnia because all of a sudden you are frustrated because you didn't say that which you wanted to say. Or you didn't ask that which you wanted to ask. Because the mind can be tricky sometimes. It already knows when you're feeling this way about somebody. And if you don't tell them you're feeling that way about them, you'd interact with them in important settings. And you'll tend to sort of lie, and it shows on your face. Because you have more than 1,000 muscles on our faces that work voluntarily. So I don't need you to be acting the part. I just need you to be personalized, individualized, and determined. For me, that's more than important. What a strengths-based life can offer you is the 3 revolutionary tools that you need to build, that you need in order to build your strong life. The first one is that the first revolutionary tool is understanding how to distinguish your talents from things you can learn. Gallup did a study, and in this study they looked at the best people in the world, and they're trying to understand what makes them best. And here then they are telling us that the first thing then that they found is that there is a way in which you represent yourself through talents or strengths, as they call it. They found that to be revolutionary in its way, in how people live their life. Because if you cannot distinguish things you can do naturally and things you can learn, it's a big problem. So strengths must help you then, or your personality must lead you to a point where you then know, this I can learn naturally, and this I can't learn. Gallup has defined a strength as consistent, near-perfect performance in an activity. Consistent, near-perfect performance in an activity. So if you start taking things you can learn and make them natural, you'll then struggle to be perfect and near-perfect performance about those things. Because at the end of the day, those things that are natural to you allow you then to be perfect or near perfect because they are natural to you. Speaking is natural to me. Thinking is natural to me. But think about it carefully though. Speaking is a skill that I had to learn, right? And thinking is something I was innately born with. So if you then are not sure who are you in this game, you'd find yourself then going along thinking your innate talent is speaking when actually it's not, it's thinking. So for me, thinking and speaking are the 2 most important things that make me who I am. So what then does that mean? It means naturally I know I'm innately a thinker, but the skills that I'm now learning is how to become a speaker, because the fact that I've got ideas to communicate is already telling me that I've got room that I could learn in terms of my talents. Say, for instance, you struggle to build a network of people who are prepared to go out of their way to help you. Can you become an excellent networker with practice? If you find it difficult to anticipate, just anticipating in life, can you learn to devise perfectly crafted strategies? If you often find yourself unable to confront people directly, can you, with discipline and practice, become extraordinarily persuasive or confrontational? The question is no. If you look at it, by the way, it's not that can you improve yourself in these areas. I mean, of course you can. Humans are adaptable creatures. But the question is it important to you then to focus on fixing what you are learning or what is not natural? For me, that is not going to help you. Because people can improve at virtually anything, but you are not just anything. You are very specific as a person in what's natural to you. So the question is, which are these things that you must know about yourself that you'll consistently do in a near-perfect performance measure? This raises some slippery questions then. What is the difference between a talent and a strength? Which aspects of a strength in networking or strategizing or persuading can be learned, and which aspects are innate? What role do skills, knowledge, experience, and self-awareness play in building a strength? If you don't know how to come to grips with these questions, you may waste a great deal of time trying to learn strengths that are unlearnable, or conversely, you may give up too early on skills that are. So when you then go out there and you think about it, Clifton Strengths Finder then is saying to us, not only do you look at personalization or what makes you personal in terms of intuition, thinking, feeling, and sensing, there are things then that are naturally give endowments to you, which is your strengths or your talents. You're not born with them as strengths, you're born with them as talents. But with knowledge, skills, and experience, you can develop them to a level of strength. You're not born with strengths, you're born with talents. But you must then discover these talents. It's a strange word when you say to somebody, discover, because it's already there. But what do we mean when we say discover? We mean observe yourself and be aware of who you are so that you then know that when we push you and we suggest some of the courses you can do as your supervisors, you can easily come to us and say, I'm sorry, your well-meaning skills on what I must learn about communication skills or people skills, I agree that I can learn this, but naturally, I'm actually not a people's person. Oh, it's good to know that as a difference, because then when we deal with you and you start showing your funny faces to us in the corridors, we will then know, naturally, you are not a relator. They found that there are 34 talent themes in total, regardless of where you are in the world. For example, to be drawn towards strangers and to enjoy a challenge of making a connection with people is a talent called woo, or winning others over, which I have at number 21. Whereas the ability to build a network of supporters who you know and are prepared to help is a strength. To build a strength, you have to perfect your innate talent with skills and knowledge. Likewise, to be able to confront others is a talent known as the theme command, which I have at number 4. Whereas the ability to sell successfully is a strength. To persuade others to buy your product, you must have combined your talent with product knowledge and certain selling skills. Although all of these things are important, the important building blocks in these things is talents. Not just skills, knowledge, and experience, but talents. So that when the talent is innate and natural, if you put a skill at it, you'll see many folds of growth. Remember, in your lifetime, you're going to grow 3 folds. If then 1 is to 10 is a measure, and you take something that you had 1 about, say, for instance, relating to people, I'm at 1. Consistency, probably, I'm at 1. Harmony, I'm at 1. To sense what people are feeling, I'm at 1. That's how low it is. If I focus on that 1, which I'm not natural about, and put all my energy to learn a skill and get knowledge of, and come to understand what emotions mean, how people express emotions, how to look at their lower lip and them shrugging their shoulders, how folding of their arms tell you how they are feeling. I could learn all of that, but because I'm at number 1 in this thing on a scale of 1 to 10, I'll grow only 2 to 3 folds, which means at best I'll be at number 4, number 3. What a waste of my time, and what a waste of my focus and attention. But if I take something that I'm at 7 at, for instance, I'm a learner, and being a learner means you can give me all attributes of things and I'll just roll them in my head and do that. I'm at 7. If I spend the same amount of energy and time learning the skills and getting the knowledge of these things, coming to understand that there's a process of learning, and in learning we can improve our lives, and when you learn, language is important, and the environment where you are learning, and there's visual and auditory, and I could learn all of that. If I'm focusing on something that is at 7, and I grow 3 folds, then I'm at 10 in that thing. The question then is, would you focus on those things which you're average and below average about, or those things you're exceptional at? And the answer is obvious. And I urge you to focus on those things which you are more than average about, or exceptional about. That's very important. So the first revolutionary then is that you must get to a point where you understand which things are natural and which things you can learn. And by the way, in our experiences, we can construe our experiences through strategic thinking, influencing, relationship building, and executing. In strategic thinking, there are themes that help us to absorb and analyze information that informs better decisions. People have strengths like analytical, context, futuristic, ideation, input, intellection, learner, strategic. Mntana sekhaya, stop saying in an interview, so who are you? No, I'm a people's person. Okay. No, say I'm analytical. Because you know you are. Say, I work better with context. When I see things, I see them in relation to what surrounds them. Say, I've got ideation. I work well with ideas and I can come up with ideas. Say, I'm a learner. Those are strategic thinking themes. But to then say, no, I love knowledge, that's too generic. There are people who have influencing themes that can take charge and speak up and make sure others are heard. These include talents like Activator, command, communication, competition, maximizer, self-assurance, significance, winning others over. There are relationship-building themes that build strong relationships that hold a team together. Themes like adaptability, connectedness, developer, empathy, harmony, includer, individuation, positivity, relator. There are people then who have executing themes that make things happen. These themes include talents like achiever, arranger, belief, consistency, deliberative, discipline, focus, responsibility, restorative. Your talents speak to your energy and need. You may have strong energy and need towards executing and getting things done. You may have strong energy and need towards influencing and getting reaction from people. You may have strong energy and needs towards relating and interacting with people. You may have strong energy and need towards reasoning and thinking. Or you may have energy and need combinations that are varied between self-domains. You are talented. You are skilled. You are knowledgeable. You are experienced. You have all these traits that are already inside you. In fact, your talents may not be new to you, as you've probably used them to travel thus far in your career and in your life. Through UNGUBANI 360-degree coaching, we accentuate all these into recognizable strengths as we give your personal brand distinction, a system, and a language. It's time to maximize your talents and build a strong life. UNGUBANI. Join the movement of self-knowledge and self-understanding and self-actualization. What are my top 5 talents? I'm an activator, input, strategic, command, intellection. When I say I'm an activator, for instance, people who are especially talented in the activator theme can make things happen by turning thoughts into action. They're often impatient. When I say I've got command, people who are especially talented in the command theme have presence. They can take control of a situation and make decisions. When I say I've got intellection, people who are especially talented in the intellection theme are characterized by their intellectual activity. They're introspective and appreciate intellectual discussions. Your talents are innate. You may be a mistake because your parents didn't plan your birth or conception, but doesn't mean you're a mistake. Your makeup proves to me that you've got personalization, individuation, and determination. The other revolutionary thing that talent-based living gives you, it is not just to know which things are natural and which things you can learn. It is also then the system of identifying your dominant talents. There is one way to identify this. You just watch yourself as you do things. When you're given a task, watch yourself how you react to it, how you jump steps in learning, and how things excite you. And those things that do not move you and excite you, move on to try other things. And over a period of time, you'll come to understand then who you are through these things. I mean, schooling should be like that, actually, and workplaces should be like that. A focused talent hunt in terms of what is dominant in people. Our children, when we send them to school, teachers should be doing that. They should be observing them, and as they execute things, as they think, as they relate, and they should then separate them in that way to understand them better and make them understand themselves better. Workplaces should be like that. When you're promoted, you should not be promoted outside your talent into a domain because the department needs that or a faculty needs that. Because that's not necessarily who you are. The job and roles we play are more in terms of lines of work. But those are certain elements of you, but they're not totally you. When you're a manager of people, that's not who you are. It's a role you play. So don't take that into your head now and start walking around and think you're a manager of people in who you are. Not necessarily, it's a role, but you want to know who you are. Are you a thinker? Are you a relator? Are you someone with ideation? Are you someone with responsibility as a theme? Are you an achiever? Are you someone that can juggle things and manage things? What can I come to you for? Because we want to know, where are your shoulders the broadest? So that you come to us for those things you lack, and we come to you for those things you are dominant about. The third revolutionary tool that living a strengths-based life will teach you is how to describe, a language to describe your talents, a common language. The person says, I'm a people's person. Okay, let's say two people are here then. Pastor Cynthia and Pastor Mnqobi are here then, and both of them we are saying they have people skills, or they are people-centered, or they love people. It doesn't tell you much if both of them come into interview and say, I'm a people's person. All it tells us is they relate to people, I guess. But it doesn't tell us that Pastor Velemseni can initiate relationships without the fear of initiating a relationship. It doesn't tell that he's got a winning others over attitude. It doesn't tell that Pastor Cynthia may be nervous about starting relationships, but once she starts them, she stays in them, and she knows and deeper relate with people in that way. So when you are saying both of them are people's person, what are you necessarily saying? It doesn't help us to do that. When you are saying, no, I'm someone who's a strategic thinker, we don't know. In your strategic thinking, are you analytical or are you strategic? Because analytical, you need data to look at and analyze. But when you're strategic, you need scenario planning and to run scenarios through things and find 10 ways of doing things. But analytical, you must be given 10 things to analyze. So it's not the same. Stop generalizing yourselves and stop making people to generalize you. Let's even go deeper now once you understand these parts. The last preference is conviction. Personalization, individuation, determination, conviction. Conviction is expressed by the service of our gifts. Oh, I love this one. But your life is not going to start with conviction. It must start with personalization to individuation. Personalization, remember, it's about your needs, your values, your motivations. You must then go to individuation. It's about your intuition, your sensing, your feeling. Then you must go to determination, which is your talent, skills, experience, and knowledge. Then you come to a conviction, which is the service of your gifts. Because at that point, for us, it doesn't necessarily matter who you are at that point. We get to know you by what you are good at. We come to know you by what you are gifted in. And then we can excuse you not to do the rest, because then you only do this one thing you do well in particular. When you look at the presidents that we've had in the country, President Nelson Mandela was different from President Thabo Mbeki. It is not that they didn't have the same function as president. No, it's because they are different as individuals. Utata Nelson Mandela went to meet people most often because to them relating was important, influencing was important. Utata Mbeki did more lehutlas when he met ministers because to him analyzing and thinking and strategizing was important. That Zuma was in between. Between relating and between thinking. Don't take that man's thinking for granted. When he goes, you are gone. Yes, it is not yet known the glory that will be revealed in us, but personality and talent cardinals can get you to your ultimate self and full manifestation. Every self was created for the wellness of humanity. And you must promise us that when you live your life and you bow out one day and you die, you would have given us the best of yourself. To serve needs to be the main driver for all our human interactions. And this is what lies at the core of self. Not to be served, but to serve. Extending service is way benevolent than expecting it. Extending service does not need to depend on receiving service. You just need to serve. That's all. How are you serving mankind? And how exceptional is your service? I myself have made commitment to stand here every second week and run these lectures. I'm serving mankind. It doesn't really mean much to me about what I get out of this more than what I give out of this. If I do not do these things, something in me boils on the inside. It is me who have sleepless nights when I see our people ignorant. It is me who have sleepless nights when I find that our people are sort of flimsy in how they relate. For me, I hate this thing of people calling us black, and because we are black, then we are inferior. Things like Bantu time. We will work on these lectures, and we'll start on time, even if no one is in this auditorium. We will start on time. Why? We are trying to change the mindset that we are sold, the inferiority mindset that we are sold. I believe our people are more intelligent as a race, and I believe our people are equally capable than the races of the world. So why then am I doing this? I'm doing this because I'm serving mankind. It would have been easier to sit in my own space, read some more, and enjoy whatever, or watch something. But I'm telling you, the pain in my heart will have been more than, because at the end of each day, when you look in your roof and you're about to sleep, the questions are not often, what did you eat today, or what you were wearing today? The questions are, what difference did you make? And I want you to commit to this thing more than anything. Commit to personalization, to individuation, to determination, and to conviction, which is the service of your gifts. Your gifts are already in these three things we spoke about. Your gifts are already in your talents, which you can move into strengths by knowledge and abilities and information. But also your gifts are in your determination, which is your intuition, your sensing, your thinking, your perception. Those things is what we need when you are serving mankind. But also your gifts are in the very first thing we spoke about, the needs of society, the motivations, the values are going to help us build in society and in your families, or in families in general. What about you then? What components are you made of? Which is your personalization? Or simply, how have you construed your experiences so far, particularly in order to represent your interests, needs, values, and motivations? Where is your individuation? How are you experiencing the world using 4 principal psychological functions: sensation, intuition, feeling, and thinking? How is your determination? How are you experiencing the world using your talents, knowledge, skills, and abilities? What is your conviction? How are you serving through your gifts? In the end, you'll be like these names I'm going to mention now that I want you to go read about some more. The Swazi Queen Mother, Labotsibeni Kwamile Mdluli, a remarkable Swazi ruler, or ruler of Swaziland, as the Queen Mother and Regent. One of the things she was known about is that she financed Abantu Batu, a newspaper, a publication that will change the voices of people of color. But also she purchased an aircraft for Britain in support of its war efforts during the World War I, among other things. When Grant Christensen, in his PhD thesis, African Jerusalem, wrote about her, he said she remained in 1912 one of the wealthiest black women in Southern Africa. Go find out more about her so that you know that even as a woman you can be powerful. Nnamdi Azikiwe, African philosopher, scholar, and eminent journalist, was a Nigerian statesman and media pioneer. He would mentor people like Kwame Nkrumah, who would later become the first president of Ghana before returning to Lagos, Nigeria in 1937. He was a Pan-Africanist and political leader who served as the first president of Nigeria from 1963 to 1966. Considered a driving force behind the nation's independence, he came to be known as the father of Nigerian nationalism. Saul Teki Soplaki, the writer of Para in the Land of His Birth, our own South African intellectual, journalist, linguist, politician, translator, and writer. Kada Asmal, in his foreword on Plaki's native life in South Africa, he wrote, Saul Plaki cannot give us all the answers, but his works teach us 2 indispensable lessons. First, to be humanitarian is not necessarily to efface and extinguish one's own cultural identity and heritage. Second, in honoring one's own language and history, it is entirely unnecessary to dishonor the language and history of anyone else. He also said it reminds us that this country needs more Saul Plakis, more crusading journalists who use language like a rapier, not a sledgehammer, who know their stuff and argue their case on the basis of justice, reason, and the facts. Plaki, a largely self-taught man, could speak 7 languages fluently. He translated William Shakespeare's work into Setswana and collected African folklore and proverbs. He was a pioneer of journalism in our indigenous languages, but wrote extensively in English as well. He defended tirelessly the rights of African people. As Africans, we are a product of the world's greatest in leadership, in statesmanship, in life, in all the things you can think of. These are the people that have assisted Africa to rise against all odds. When you look at the independence of Africa and how it was fought from the 50s, all the way to our own democracy that was achieved in 94, it tells me that there were certain people whose life was not just waking up, eating and sleeping. They were bothered by society. They were bothered by the ills of society. How much do you want this? How much do you want this? In closing, I came across a very interesting story of a young man called Lexin Didimu Karia. Please Google him. Lexin Karia, Didimu Karia. When his mother gave birth to him, she realized that he was an oversized baby. He was a big infant in size. And she decided to throw him in the river because she didn't know what to do with him. The river was called Didimu. That's why his name is also Didimu. But another member of the community discovered him and took him back to his mother. When growing up, he says that he came from the poorest family that God ever created. In a family of 8, only 2 kids, which were a pair of twins, made it through childhood. The others died. That's how severe things were in his family. But this young man wanted to become something better for the sake of his family and his community. So he lived in Nyasaland, previously known as Malawi. And at some point he decided that he wanted to go and study in America. This is a young man who's poor in every right, but he's having ambition about going to America and making a difference in his life. But America back then, around 1912, was not something that you could just go to and do. It was not something that you could just leave and say, I'm going to America. In America, you needed to move out of Africa first. So you needed to leave Malawi and go all the way for 1,000 kilometers, all the way to Sudan, trekking by foot. They say what he had in his hand was an axe, 2 books, which was a book about pilgrims' land, and a Bible. But he also had a map of Africa and a map of the world. And all he knew was that north was on his right. He worked from community to community. And each community, he would earn little change to buy bananas and all of that. And he continued to work his way. It took him a good 2 years to move from his community to Sudan, where he was going to take a ship. Can you imagine how long it takes, 2 years on your feet? 1,000 kilometers trekking. You must be of resilience not to lose track along the way. They say he learned languages as he was going. And one of the words he had to learn was food and asking and greeting and those conversational things. But to him, what was more important was the ability to move to America. When he reached Sudan, he then found a library that was free that spoke about colleges in America. And of those, he found one of the colleges, and he read about them. And he wrote them a letter all the way now in Sudan. Within 2 weeks, the college came back and said, we're accepting you, giving you a full scholarship. More than that, we'll find employment in America. And then he had to wait another 6 months to 8 months, waiting now for a passport, and so that he can board the ship. Eventually, he boarded the ship and got to that college. Today, we're speaking about a man who's written 5 novels. To me, it proves that where you come from, it doesn't matter. But he had to be personalized. He had to be individualized. He had to be determined. And he had to be convicted. African child, go barefoot, if you will. Do all that is necessary. But just remember, a luta continua. Thank you so much.